Coming up on this bonus episode of Locked On Texas Tech, good news of sizable proportions for Grant McCasland and Red Raider Hoops. Next on Locked On Texas Tech.
You are Locked On Texas Tech, your daily podcast on the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We're going to start this thing off right. Raider! Everything runs through Lubbock.
Hey, how's it going? Good to see you for this pop-in edition of Locked On Texas Tech. We're knocking on the door. We're ringing the bell. We were in the neighborhood. Are you decent? Honey, do you have pants on? We're coming in anyway because we've got some good news to discuss here, Chris, as Grant McCasland and the Red Raiders get a commitment from a guy that was being heavily pursued, and, man, it comes in a way that you really needed with size. Warren Washington, the Arizona State transfer, is set to be a Red Raider. Texas Christian, probably your stiffest competition in this race, but I know Memphis, I think Michigan, maybe Arkansas as well, kicking these tires, but is going to make the call for the good guys, man. And this is one that you need badly, and I'm really excited about.
Yeah, this was very welcomed news. I think this really checks a box. Now you look at your team all of a sudden completely differently now that you've got let's just call it what it is, a starting center. Yeah. I'll be shocked if he's not your starting five-man and really doesn't, if healthy, doesn't start every single game. He's a good two-way player, and I think why he was maybe targeted as much by Grant and his staff is that this is a young man that 2 blocks a game basically. And when you are so focused on defense and you've got rim protection, it changes the dynamic of what you do, because if somebody can gamble and maybe make a mistake, and you're going to survive it if you've got somebody on the back end that can clean up your mess. Hence what Tariq Owens was such a phenomenal fit, because somebody screws up on the perimeter, he's back there to clean up the mess. And again, It's not perfect, and that's not what I'm saying Warren Washington is, but I mean, 2 blocks a game is, and it's technically 1.8, but this is legit. And it's, I always say this when we broadcast games, it's typically the shots you alter or the shots you just discourage from even being taken that is your biggest impact on as a shot blocker. Like, how many ones does somebody kind of float up a little bit higher or like
alligator arm,
off balance because they're fearful of it, and that's where a shot blocker really comes in the most. And then there's some times where it's like a guard breaks somebody down off the dribble, and it's like, oh yeah, I don't want to go in there, and like I'll just pass it. And so right. you discourage a lot too if you're really good at it. And so, but I mean, this is big news, and it was desperately needed. I think that for the most part, when they've gotten kids here on a visit, man, it's worked. I mean, McMillan, we have Darian Williams. Now we have Washington, and, they're starting to have a pretty good little batting average here when they've got these portal guys to come visit on actually landing them. So, and again, as you mentioned, Cowan, this one was tricky because if you don't get him, guess what? You were going to see him probably 2, maybe even 3 times next year. And those, after what we watched with Kevin McCullough, and you've watched Isaac Likely for Oklahoma State a few years ago, there's so many players that you kind of, it's really tough when you miss on a guy that you end up having to see, and it can kind of do damage to you. So those are fun recruiting battles to win for that very reason alone.
Yeah, and there was another Big 12 program in pursuit I didn't mention. Oklahoma State was also on that list. Looking at Washington, but I wonder what to make of the stops on Washington's list already, because this is going to be his 4th stop, unless I'm mistaken. Correct me if I'm wrong, but Oregon State, Nevada, Arizona State, Texas Tech. Is that right?
Correct.
Is that anything? Something? Nothing?
It's something, sure. I think the good news is that this is more normal than than the exception now.
That's true.
I mean, like, we were talking about some of our guys the other day that the players from last year. I mean, Bacho, think about it. Arizona, then Texas Tech, now Louisiana Tech. Jalen Tyson, Texas, then Texas Tech, then Cal. this just adds another stop. The beauty of this one is that you get him last. There is no chance to, hey man, I don't like it here, or this isn't work, whatever. No, you get the swan song. And so that was the beautiful part about the Bryson Williams, because Bryson Williams had played at a few different places.
That's true.
You know, and he was the epitome of a professional. He was as well-oiled of a machine as a player and human as I have ever been around in any sport. And so, you know, I'm sure that there was a story there and all those things. But you know, it could be everything from I'm homesick. I don't like this coach. This coach got fired. This coach got hired. They're switching up their style of play. You know, who knows?
Steak and salmon's getting to me.
I don't like the way this coach does things. I don't think he treats me fairly. Who knows?
Yeah.
You know, so, but I'm not going to really worry about that. It is worth the follow away and point out just so people are aware, because I think people kind of assume when they see his name and they think, oh, he's been a long time Arizona State player. Not true. Yeah, he's been and you know, it's funny because now you technically have two former Nevada Wolfpack players joining your team. There's no crossover though, but you know, Warren Washington was the 2 years previous, and now Darian Williams was here last year. But yeah, you're taking some of Steve Alford's guys. So maybe Steve Alford's the problem. Maybe this is why other people are choosing to leave schools. Maybe they don't like playing for. I'm kidding. I have no idea. But yeah. So I think that this is your 5-man. You still need another forward / center to that room. Maybe even multiple, because right now you've got Warren Washington, you've got Robert Jennings, and like last year, for example. It was O'Banner, it was Fardaws, it was Bacho, and it was Robert Jennings. So you had the kind of 4 guys playing those 2 spots. You could go small, you could go big. So right now you've got 2. You need to add a 3rd person to that mix for sure. But wouldn't be surprised if you even add a tweener type that could kind of play the, you know, small forward or power forward, things like that. So we'll see what we get. But this was got to start somewhere, and this was a big start, man. Literally,
man, big start. Legit 7-footer, I think. And yes. I don't want to quibble over a couple of inches, but with like guys like Amac or Bacho or some of that previously. But this is a big dude, and you know his ability to score just under double digits as a scorer a season ago. I'm curious about. Do you think? I don't know how much you've seen him, if at all, but is he a back to the basket kind of guy, or just cleaning up around the basket kind of score? What do you anticipate there?
There's a little bit of post activity, mid range, yes. Okay. I think, you know, I don't want to say he's a traditional back to the basket, no, but I think he's just good around the rim, you know. And are you necessarily calling plays for him? I don't know if we're going to go that route, but I think that you can throw it to him and he can get you a bucket. But I mean, would he be primary option? No. But again, I think, you know, hovering around like double type territory for him, you can't ask for more than that.
That'd be all right.
Yeah. And consistency, so.
Sure. Disrupting on the defensive end, something you get offensively would probably be a bonus, but primarily concerned with what he can do defensively. You desperately needed it, you got it, and you still want a little more, that being size as you try to shore up your front court. So anyway, good news for Texas Tech basketball, Grant McCaslin and Red Raider basketball fans, as Warren Washington makes the call for the good guys as he's going with Texas Tech. Thanks for joining us again for this pop-in edition of Locked On Texas Tech. Pop-in video. What a great show once upon a time before VH1 turned over the entire network to Flava Flav. Chris, enjoyed a bonus conversation with you, man, and enjoyed talking something that was certainly worthy of being celebrated. So thanks for the time once again, and we'll see you for the next one on Monday.
Absolutely, man. Stay tuned. You never know what's around the corner. Like I told you last time, there it guns up.
Subscribe on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts so you never miss an episode. And check us out also on the SiriusXM app, SXM in the App Store. Is where you can find also Locked On Texas Tech and the Locked On Network. For Chris, I'm Casey. Thanks for joining us again for this bonus edition of Locked On Texas Tech.